Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tech with Peter Mbanugo. And on this episode of Web Performance, CDN, and Caching, I have Aymen. Aymen is a web performance and SEO consultant who also has his own web performance monitoring product, which is called Speetals. He was initially a computer science engineer, an ex full-time developer, maybe full stack as well. I think before the stream, he told me he used to use Joomla and a few other tools, which I resonate with in the past. But now his main focus is on SEO and marketing, which I would find very interesting because I've also been a full-time developer and not paying a lot of attention on marketing. And these days, I'm learning a lot about marketing, not just from an SEO perspective, but also like selling, how to get my product out there. So, without further ado, I would like Ayman to also talk a bit about himself. Welcome to the show, Ayman.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks for having me. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the live. So you introduced me so well. Thank you. I'm Aymen Loukil, International SEO and Web Performance Consultant, and the founder of Speetals, which is a real user monitoring tool helping businesses monitor, assess, validate, and alert on web performance stuff.
Oh, nice. Good to have you. Do I say your name correctly? Ayman.
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct. Perfect.
Yeah. At the end of your introduction, you mentioned real user monitoring, which I mean, a lot of abbreviation RUM. How is it different from synthetic monitoring? Because I've also seen that term flying around.
Yes, this is a good question regarding monitoring tools, and it's so important and essential to distinguish the two types of monitoring tools. Synthetic tools are mainly robots and emulation. So we are sending a kind of browser. It could be headless or a normal browser that will load a specific web page of our website in specific conditions and specific context, right?
Yeah.
So we may apply a throttling on the connection. We may emulate a screen size, and we may also throttle the CPU of the device and try to load this page and measure some of the metrics. This is the synthetic way of measuring web performance. And one of the most common tools is Google Lighthouse, which is a good tool for debugging, for measuring some objective
Yeah.
metrics. Um, but we have also other tools like web page test or Chrome Dev tools. Its own, it's also a synthetic tool.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think Lighthouse now is, I think, the default now in Chrome Dev tools.
Yes, it's in Chrome DevTools, in addition to other to the performance and performance to the network and performance tabs. So we have much more things. And recently, this week, Chrome team added some cracks data inside the DevTools of Chrome. So this is so interesting to have both type of data. So this is the first category. The second category, we are talking about real users data. And for this, we need a RAM tool, real user monitoring tool, to capture and to give us this real-time users data during the browsing of our website, but also the interactions, etc. Synthetic tools may be useful at development stage or to check for some objective aspects. For example, uh, did I minify my JavaScript? Did I compress my images, etc. But the, the let's say the problem with synthetic tools is that they don't represent our real users. So we may achieve a perfect Google Lighthouse score, but we don't have the warranty that our real users are facing a good experience.
Yeah.
And this is the most frustrating misconception in the web performance world, because I often see web developers share and, let's say it, brag about their Google Lighthouse
Lighthouse.
perfect scores.
Uh,
And I have been part of this, right? Some years ago. Uh, I was so proud sharing my 99% or 100% of Lighthouse score.
yeah. I was
But
going to say the same, that I'm also corporate. I paid a lot of attention to Lighthouse, like you check, oh, I have 100 scores or I have 95. And you don't really learn that those are like just synthetic. In fact, in those days, I never knew what was synthetic. I just know, oh, this is how you measure your performance. And later learning about like user monitoring, I realized, wait, actually, this makes sense. All this while I've been doing it very wrong, because if I run it from my laptop and it simulates like, okay, network traffic, at the end of the day, things changes in the user. So there's a difference between if you are using a Motorola and an iPhone to access the same website on the same network speed, and being able to track how it performs on different devices from the actual users, I think really helpful. But most of us don't use all this, and I can tell you, even until last year, I still had a lot of people running Lighthouse and saying, "Oh, we have 99," and
yeah,
we are all doing it wrong.
and talking about perfect Google Lighthouse score, let me share my screen. Um, Brendan Canny did a nice study on Google Lighthouse scores on the HTTP archive dataset, and found out that 50% of perfect Google Lighthouse score pages fail at Web Vitals assessment. So if you have perfect Google Lighthouse score, you have one chance out of two to pass the Web Vitals. There is really a blind spot in Google Lighthouse scoring system. Sorry. Also, there is an important thing, is that um, Google Lighthouse and real user monitoring data don't share much things. I will show you the difference. So let's say we are talking about Web Vitals. So LCP, CLS, INP. First input delay is now
It's gone.
yeah, it's gone. uh, Rest in peace. First input delay. And Google Lighthouse doesn't interact with your interfaces. So forget about INP. We can't measure interactivity using Google Lighthouse. We may measure a proxy for interactivity, let's say total booking time metric, or maybe the impact of the size of JavaScript on your future interactions. But Google Lighthouse doesn't fill forms, doesn't click on your
Yeah.
buttons, etc., etc. Of course, you can emulate a scenario of navigating from one page to another, but it's still an emulation. The CLS, just the above the fold CLS. This is um, a common issue, because when you run with Google Lighthouse, it will just test if there is some layout shift on the hero element. It,
Oh, okay.
it doesn't scroll. So if you scroll a little bit down in the page and you face a carousel with images not allocating its space, you will face a CLS, but Google Lighthouse won't see it. Which this is what I call navigational CLS, because CLS occurs after interaction also. It's not
Yeah.
just the hero element, right?
True.
One of the most frequent issue I face on e-commerce websites when I audit, you visit a PLP page, a category, You click on one of the product thumbnail, you scroll down to the description of the product, you can check the photos and try to do a back, click on the back button of your browser. And often we have a huge CLS issues because we fetch again the images, we try to rank the product in the category page, and we have CLS. This CLS won't be seen by Google Lighthouse. Let's
And
continue.
most
Sorry.
times when you measure that, you just measure the page. You don't measure the navigation. You
Right.
know, so those are
You
like very important.
so important. Even for LCP, okay, Google Lighthouse can measure the LCP, but it will highly depend on the conditions of Google Lighthouse.
Okay.
So the point here is that we can't just resume and sum up a website performance on just one single run and just on Google Lighthouse. You know, um, something funny when managers or marketing managers or maybe investors share with me page speed insight URL, and they point out to the Lighthouse report, and it's a misconception. They consider the Lighthouse report of the homepage a kind of representation of all the website pages, which is not.
Yeah, but and they ignore the Crocs report.
Yeah, they ignore the first part of the report. Uh,
But I think that's like, it's like a human problem when you have one part of the report shows you something nice, one shows you bad.
yeah,
And when you are like an employee, most times you're like, okay, I don't understand what this does. And instead of understanding, you just take the good one and show your manager, oh, we have a good lighthouse score.
yeah, totally, totally. So this is a huge problem. I think it's an education problem
Yeah.
in the industry of web performance. And yeah, if you care most about your users, you have to monitor their data, hear their voices, and users aren't similar. We have a huge spectrum of different users with different devices and different conditions. And this is where real user monitoring um, comes to the rescue. And it's interesting because it gives us this ability to scan our audience and have all the differences of context of segments, location, device, browser, and many other access.
Yeah. I think those are, like you said, checking real user experience. And I I think most times a lot of engineers are just, they sit in the office and they just build. It runs fast on their Mac laptop, and everything is all good. And I remember, when I lived in Nigeria, where sometimes, the connectivity varies from place to place, and uh, things could not work seamlessly the same way it would work maybe when you are on your home Wi-Fi,
Right.
because when you are going on the road. And it was quite a painful experience. And around that time, I was one of the people also, advocating for offline first or progressive web app, because it allows you to be able to continue working offline. I also worked with a company that allowed people to use, like offline first application, because they had health officials, both from the federal government and otherwise, and they would go to locations without good or no internet to collect some data, do some vaccination, or carry out some health activities. And they need to still be able to use the application at that time. So the only way we got this working was, implement offline first patterns and have things sync. But without you being experiencing those, you would not feel the same pain your users use. You just tell them, oh, maybe just get them uh, an iPhone and a proper LTE device, and those does not automatically solve the issue.
This is why web performance is also empathy.
Yeah,
Being in the shoes of your users is a kind of empathy. You need to feel what they are experiencing in their own context. Don't make assumptions and don't say iPhone is our top audience device, or 5G 4G connection is everywhere, which is not the case. This is just assumptions and not good for better understanding the web performance.
yeah. And I agree a lot with what you said about we need to do a lot of education around web performance in terms of when to rely on Lighthouse and when not to, because you talk to a lot of web developers and a lot of us are still relying on Lighthouse. You even have some products that the only built-in performance monitoring that they have is based on Lighthouse
Yeah.
and nothing else. And when you deploy your application and you keep seeing the Lighthouse score, you think, okay, this is doing fine. I think maybe I would mention the product so it doesn't look like I'm attacking the product, but they are only collecting Lighthouse metrics, which
Yeah.
is fine for some instance. So I think we need to do a lot of education. Maybe I should start doing it more with my channel, talking a lot about the real user monitoring and how to make it easier.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that I think Chrome 128 or 129 now has this way you can compare side by side between your core web vitals, and maybe that will help get things better.
Yes, there is also this add-on, the Web Vitals add-on, which will be soon. I think in January, next January, it will be added. It will be embedded. We have no more need to install the add-on on Google Chrome. It will embedded by default, and it's really interesting because it's kind of RAM when you are browsing, right? For people who can't afford the RAM tool, they can install the browser extension. I will share it here. So this extension, Web Vitals, created by Google team, and it's so important because you can enable the console logging, and when you are navigating the website you are working on, you will see the different events. So you will have LCP, FCP, TTFB, but also INP and CLS issues, and you can try to better debug the issues. Of course, it's kind of RAM, but using your own conditions. This is good, but not
Okay.
sufficient, right?
So this is still not this is running it from your own device, not
Yes.
the
Yes,
oh,
this is running on your device. Of course, you can apply some throttling and some limitations to your connection and CPU. But yeah, at some cases, it's important to reproduce. I incite web developers to install this web add-on because it could help trying to reproduce the bugs or the web performance issues, right? So you can try to reproduce and see what is happening on your web page. Of course, it can't replace a real RAM tool capturing all the spectrum of your users and segmenting it, etc.
no. Is it different from the one they added to Chrome DevTools to compare
Yeah,
the
they started to add the local metrics here, right? So
yeah,
we can see what is our LCP image here, you see,
yeah.
and it's useful, but again, it's our own conditions. Here we have some throttling on CPU we can apply, but also network throttling, right? So to reduce a little bit to cap the network connection and try to apply some limitations.
So basically the same with the extension.
Yeah, I think the only difference is that the extension will log here the
Okay.
different events, right?
I see. Can you share the link to the extension so I can drop it in the YouTube chat?
Of course, I can. Yeah, I share it with you, right?
Yeah, thanks.
So welcome. So yeah, tooling, choosing the right tool is so important because this will be your baseline, right? This is
Yeah,
your history. Also, it's so important not to just do a snapshot measurement. This is not useful. You need data over time, and this will help you detect regressions, but also validate what you are doing as optimization. So
yeah.
yeah,
I
this
think the tab you showed, it's also possible to compare side by side what you are, how it runs on your laptop, and also with the
yes,
crops.
if you run a Google Lighthouse, you can have both data if your website has sufficient data also on cracks.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, more than choosing the tool, which is important, um, the main topic on validating web performance optimization is about workflow, right? So right, we need to have RAM data because this is the cream of the crop. You can't do serious web performance data without a real user monitoring tool. You can make some assumptions, guesswork. It may work at some times, but you won't be able, unfortunately, to say this action gave us this improvement on LCP on mobile or for French-based users or Belgium-based users, etc.
yeah. Okay.
Only RAM can do it because you have the ability to segment the data by different axes.
And also, like your Google Analytics and other analytics too would not also show you this data.
Yeah, it's limited. In fact, you can use the Web Vitals library, which is open source. You can use it and try to send the events to Google Analytics. But let's be frank, who is enjoying Google Analytics 4 these days? Not me. I'm sorry, but the product is it's a struggle to use it nowadays. So yeah, for those who can use Google Analytics, I think they can still send some useful data and aggregate it with some business metrics, which is not bad.
So, are you saying in general not to rely on this web analytics for this kind of data,
Yeah.
or are you specific on just Google Analytics?
Yeah, Google Analytics isn't for web performance monitoring. It's for analytics, right? General analytics, and uh, this is so important to split and break down the data. And with Google Analytics, are we going to be able to split mobile 75th percentile on PDP page from this location? I don't think, right? So we need to zoom on the data, and this is what I call splitting and breaking down the data. Sorry for going a little bit fast. Yeah, because when you zoom on the data and when you break down things, you are going to be able to extract value. Sending page speed insight screenshot and saying we pass web vitals is kind of nonsense. You are passing web vitals for whom? We don't know. Page speed insight doesn't give us location segment, which is so important for international websites.
Yeah. And then also sending it to like Google Analytics to be able to get that data. Also, you cannot, do the correlation.
Won't be sufficient. So how to segment RAM data. This is the must-have axis of segmentation when you read the RAM data. So of course, we would need to segment by device: mobile, tablet, smart TV, why not, desktop, right? Because there are some
Smart
websites,
fridge.
yeah, but also by the type of connection. Thanks to the AP effective connection type, we are able to assess the speed of the bandwidth. And this is so important because during when we are on the tube, or we are on the driving the car, or in some not so well covered zone, we are not having the same level of connection. So at the end of the day, optimizing the website isn't just to achieve Web Vitals assessment, right? Web Vitals is only for 75% of your audience. If you are doing great for this part of your audience, for Google, you will pass Web Vitals. But we can put the bar higher and say, I'm more exigent, and we need to pass the 95th percentile. We need to be able to provide a perfect user experience for 95% of our audience.
Yeah. So
And
that's
yeah,
so then you are not relying on just uh, maybe some kind of high level,
yes,
or how would I say it, like vendor given metrics. You also create your own metrics like that is suitable for your own business or
yes,
product
you
rather.
can go further and create your own customs. But even with LCP, CLS, and INP, don't just say globally we pass Web Vitals, because if you zoom in and check your web performance from this country compared to another country for an international website, you may be surprised. And this is why RAM data is important, because it allows us also to segment by location, by navigation type, is it load, reload, back, forward, etc., but also by the capabilities of our users' devices, CPU and memory, right? Another interesting axis of segmentation is the page type. Not all page types have the same issues on web performance. For example, on PDP, you may have some different CLS issues compared to product list page, compared to your blog, which may be based on WordPress, right? And yeah, and your homepage, your editorial page, etc. All these page types provide different level of web performance, and this is why breaking down the data is so important.
Yeah. For You mentioned a couple of acronyms like PLP, PDP, and I don't know, maybe not
Sorry for that.
everyone is familiar with it, but I think Ayman is making reference to e-commerce solutions. So, like
Yes.
PLP means the product listing page. So when you go to the website and you see the list of products,
Yeah.
and then the product detail page is, the one with the
Add to
different
cart.
images, and you can add to cart. Yeah.
Yes. Thanks for the precision, and sorry not
Nah,
doing it. So
that's fine.
here is an example of international e-commerce website, right? The website is hosted in France, in Paris, right? So if you take the first line, we are seeing the metrics of Web Vitals, which is pretty good: 84, 85, 92, 73. Okay, there is room of improvement, and 88% of good sessions on these metrics. But let's zoom on Lebanese people experience for this same website, right? So here we have a different story. We are moving from 500 milliseconds of 75th percentile of TTFB to 1.1 seconds. We are just doubling the time to first byte for Lebanon-based users. But also we move from a perfect CLS to a failed one. And knowing that Lebanon users are so important from a business point of view for this website, this is so important to point it out, right?
Yeah.
So if we just go back and say it's perfect, we don't need web performance work, you will ignore what other countries are experiencing. Another type of segmenting the data is by the connection of the type of the connection. So here it's a French international big publisher, news, right? News website. And on 4G, it's nearly perfect. INP still needs some improvement. We are just on 71% of good sessions on mobile. But on 3G, we are moving from a perfect LCP, 1.9 seconds on LCP on mobile to more than 4 seconds, which is a huge. And 3G still exists, right?
Yeah.
We can't just say everyone is getting 5G and 4G.
Obviously, I mean, even in Europe. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, I don't know what the speed of your home internet is, but you would be shocked to discover that a lot of people still have um, internet service plan that are still like 5 to 10 megabytes per second download speed, and even with that, on average, sometimes you just keep getting like between 2 and 4, and that could be, when you are running from your 5G LTE office connection, you don't see this, but real users in different parts of the world may not be running on 4G.
Yeah, totally. And this is the interesting part in web performance is that we shouldn't just say the majority of our users are based in a country with good internet conditions and good devices. Because
Yeah,
if you think in the other way, if you will optimize for the others will come and will visit your website.
true.
And this is what happened with YouTube some years ago when they checked the long tail of their audience and they started creating a light version of YouTube for African countries. And just after that, this alternative version, they saw improvement and increase of the parts of the audience coming from Africa.
Yeah, I think it's the mobile app. Is it YouTube Lite or something? I can't remember.
Yes.
And I don't think he works. I don't think he works in Europe. I don't know if he works in Europe because I no longer have the app anymore. And
Yeah.
then I discovered that when I'm in Nigeria, I'm able to download YouTube videos on my phone. But when I'm in Europe, I can't download YouTube videos on my phone because it's easier. People might be on transit and they also want to watch the video later. It makes sense than in Europe, being compared to Africa, most times the cost of the internet is relatively cheaper. So for them, the decision I think was okay to go in that direction.
Yes. Another interesting example on United States, we have the NPR radio, national radio, um, that provide
In France?
no in United States
Okay.
they provide the text-only version. You see here, for example, the Hurricane Milton. So people during, let's say, weather crises and weather extreme conditions, usually they don't have sufficient bandwidth and sufficient quality of connection. So this is another example of being empathic uh, um, with our users and creating an adaptive experience of loading the website. So text only is cheaper to load and doesn't require high bandwidth connection. So this is a perfect example on putting yourself in the shoe of your users.
And you showed some statistics before now, and I was just curious. These are statistics from your clients, or it is a different public available data?
This one?
No, the ones before, like when you measured the one with the French and the Lebanon.
Yeah. Data coming from Speetals and on my customers, right?
Okay.
So yeah, this is so important to zoom in the data and don't just sum up web performance to one score and one metric. This is not you will face the blind spot and you will maybe let's say ignore more many opportunities for your business.
I mean, we've made reference a lot to e-commerce, but I think this applies beyond e-commerce. It's for every kind of
Here we
product
have a
you're building,
publisher. Yeah.
like your news sites. I think also people like, I think BBC, Bloomberg, they invest a lot in their engineering products so that they can have it respond as fast as possible across the globe, because uh, people reference BBC even in
Yeah.
Nigeria. They use that to get there too. So
Let,
not just for
let's
e-commerce.
let's check the industry web vitals benchmark. uh, I just launched this today, so we have the ranking of the top 1k media publishers in UK. So here, for example, we see that the first the fastest website is the Guardian, and then BBC, and then other media websites. So these benchmarks are based on Cracks data. Cracks dataset
Yeah,
provide the
Chrome user experience.
the popularity, sorry, rank. So I took the top 1000 websites per country. For now we have United Kingdom, United States, and France benchmarks, and we categorized them by industry. And so we can, for example, see the ranking of e-commerce, travel, web services, etc. And this is so important to see how your website is performing, but also see the patterns and the trends on web performance across an industry.
But it's, you mean, are there like the top based on the popularity of the website, or the top based on the score of their web vitals?
Yeah, we took the top 1000 websites per country based on their traffic. Of
Ah, okay.
course, it's the cracks data. And then we analyzed them with the Speetals tool. So these metrics are from cracks for mobile. So, for example, let's take the news publishers. Um, for example, the CNN 75 percentile for September month is 1.1 second, zero CLS, which is perfect, and
That's
only
impressive.
97 milliseconds of INP. We are near to instant interaction response on the interfaces, which is pretty good. And yeah, they are doing awesome work. Many publishers, by the way, in the States or France. Or
Do you have any does it include data for Germany? I'm just curious.
I I I didn't hear you well. Sorry.
Does it include data for Germany?
For now, not for now, but
Ah, okay.
we are adding more countries, and Germany is on the in our roadmap. So we will soon have Germany benchmark.
Would it be public data, like to compare, or one needs to sign up for the product to compare?
Yeah, actually, we provide free tools here.
Okay.
So we have a compare vitals tool, but also we have these industry benchmarks. So it will give you a one shot at a glance comparison or ranking, right? But if you want to have this as monitoring and over time, let me show you what Speetles is able to do in this. So let's take, for example, Vinted website. So here we have the latest month experience for every single metric for mobile and desktop, right? And we have this feature to be able to compare mobile and desktop side by side. So here, for example, LCP mobile desktop, INP, etc., etc. So for example, we see that the desktop CLS is okay. We are better than 75% of good experiences, but the mobile is only 56%, right? So this first screen is important to get at a glance prioritization. So you will say, okay, I need to work mobile CLS. I need to work both LCP on both devices. My TTFB is so poor. And you can try to prioritize things like that. After that, we have an overtime monitoring of the progress. So we can see how things are evolving. And if I switch, for example, to mobile, we are going to see that things improved at some time, March and April of this year. And then we have some regressions now. We can also check how is the 75 percentile value evolving. So we see that compared to the last year, Vinted on mobile, they moved from 4 seconds to 2 seconds on FCP, the first contentful paint, at which time the first pixel is displayed in the screen.
So they are making good progress then.
Yes, and then they are regressing, unfortunately, on some metrics. Then, so this is domain data, right? So this is the aggregated cracks data across all the pages. Now, the question is, help me to prioritize by page type. So if you want to improve, for example, if you work for this website and you want to improve the LCP on mobile, you can check the worst performing pages, right? So if you want to make the most of impact, don't start with the homepage. Don't start with the sign up page. It's perfect. Start with this PLP page. Okay, what's happening here? Page is not loading. Anyway,
Maybe they are running single page applications and they
yeah,
can't.
I don't know, but it's not working. Sorry, Vinted. It's just for the demo. I'm sorry. So yeah. Anyway, so this screen
Are
will.
they a French brand?
I think, yeah, I think it's now it's international, but I think it's originally French. So it's a marketplace for second-hand apparel materials and
Okay.
clothes, so on. Right. So yeah, so this can help us make the transition between domain data and page data. Of course, when you do RAM with Speetals, you will have many more pages, and you can search, you can aggregate them by page type, you can do many stuff to help you prioritize the work. Of course, after that, we can compare with the competitors. So here we monitor other websites, competitors, and we can see how it's doing compared to them. So here we compare the 75 percentile of each metric, but also with the scoring system that I created 1 year ago now, which is called the user experience rating. So I observed that people are so obsessed with Google Lighthouse score. So I created a score, a weighted score based on the cracks data, right? Based on real users data.
Okay.
So for each of the metrics, we give a weight. It could be 30%, 25%, 10%, etc. And we have one single score that we can monitor over time. This is for less techie people, right? So maybe managers or boss that just want to follow the UXR over time. But it's also a blind spot because you may improve your LCP and decrease on time to first byte or CLS, and you could keep the same score, which is not, it won't tell you that you regressed on some metrics and improved on others. We also compare metric by metric, the distribution, LCP versus competition, etc. But also every single metric of your website and your competitors over time. So you can see how things are evolving and take some interesting insights from there.
But and you get all this data direct from the Crocs data.
Yeah, what you are seeing here is the crux data part. And we have RAM capabilities. We have much more segments. We have much more data. And we have much more, let's say, features that will facilitate the work for you. For example, you can say all the URLs starting by /product aggregates their metrics on one single line. So this way you can validate your actions on specific page types, and you can have, let's say, at a glance view by page type. This is so useful. Then let's try to talk about validating the impact. Let's say we did some caching optimization this morning and we deployed it in production. So the goal of this screen is daily validation. Let's say we added caching here. The goal of this part of the tool is to validate starting tomorrow at 9 a.m. Tomorrow morning, we will be able to see if we are getting greener or not. And you can, for example, add an annotation and say, okay, we added cache here at this date, etc. And you can better analyze and validate your actions.
Ah. So you just annotate and then you can come back and see.
Totally.
I think that's quite cool.
Yeah. And yeah, on our RAM data, we also provide debug data. So, for example, this is my favorite example. On LCP, we, let's say, the half of our LCP events got a perfect LCP, 500 milliseconds, right? And it's on the biggest image, the banner of the category. This is a blog. And then if we check a little bit, we will see that the other half is the cookie banner consent model that was captured as LCP. And here, what is interesting to observe is that first comers to your website will get the model of OneTrust cookie banner consent. You accept, you refuse. And when it's the case, it's 3 seconds LCP. So even if we optimize it, we already optimized the LCP on our page, on our content, we still can check what is happening if the LCP is not what we optimized.
Yeah.
So same for CLS, Speetals RAM will gives interesting insights regarding the elements that are shifting on the page, but also for INP, what is causing the issues. So it's more than monitoring. We start to debug with Speetals Room and get some let's say insights regarding this.
Is there a difference between the Crocs data and the ROM data?
Yes, the main difference is that Crux is Chromium only. It's managed by Google. For small websites, they don't have sufficient traffic, so they are usually not eligible to Crux, right? And RAM, we put a tiny JavaScript file in the source code, and we capture every single session and page view. Of course, you can adjust it with a sampling rate and say, okay, I want to get 50% of the sessions, okay, and it works on multiple browsers. It gives us data as soon as we add the snippet, and it's your own data, so you can manage it and segment it better than relying on a third-party data. I mean, Crux is good for to start with. They already give interesting insights, and this is why we built over Crux. We built Speetles Crux. But for more advanced use cases and for a better validation, it's the RAM is the cream of the crop. As I said, it's really a must-have tool, a tool set to add to your team.
Yeah. But this is, I mean, they have to install like a JavaScript that you give them to capture that data.
Yes, they should add the snippet to the website. It's a tiny JavaScript. They can even add it with async differ attributes to not block the rendering, etc. So
Yeah. And so, but what you know of the ROM archive, right?
yeah, RAM Archive is an Akamai, I think, initiative
Yeah.
providing some data, but it's anonymous. I think we can't query by domain as I know.
Now, I think you can query by domain, but probably you would not be able to get like location and some other user identifying information. But I wonder where they get the data from, if they're getting it from Crocs or if they're getting it from their own CDN.
Um, I think they don't give the origins. They just give some aggregation regarding, for example, you see here in the documentation, um, high level example. So here we have, for example, by country, um, the load time, comparing Chrome and Safari, etc. So it's not, we don't have the origin, I think.
Ah, I see.
So it's still interesting because it's kind of country or industry benchmarking, but it doesn't give domain based data, right?
Yeah. And cool. So anyway, people, why Crocs data is still important? You know, having your own RUM data, RUM data, uh, so that you can be able to monitor the actual information and tweak what you want to tweak.
Yes. I want to talk about another important topic on web performance validation. Uh, is the user story. When you want to optimize something, always try to keep it atomic, specific, detailed, and isolated. Because I often hear people saying, "Yeah, let's optimize our images." Okay, this is so big, so large, and to optimize images, we can now enumerate and list, let's say, more than 100 techniques. So let's be specific and laser focused. And I want to share with the audience how I write web performance optimization user story. So of course we need the title of the optimization. So this in this example, I recommend to add fetch priority high to our PDP product details page hero image in order to improve the loading and accelerate things. And if I stop here, it's not sufficient, right?
Yeah.
Of course, developers won't go search for what is fetch priority. Maybe they will do it, but it's not their role. You as a consultant or product owner or project manager, uh, you need to specify uh, the details, right? So this is why I add on what metric we are trying to impact, to have impact, right? On which page type, on which devices. And remember, it's important to split by countries. So
Yeah.
here, typically, we are not trying to improve LCP for every single user, right? This is, it could be after comparing France and Belgium based users data of Web Vitals and spotting that LCP for Belgium based isn't good. So this is so important to know for whom also we are optimizing. Then I put the description, right? of course, the why and the how to technical side. And then I add this part, which is so important. How can we measure the impact? It's
Sure.
essential to share this across the team. So developers, managers, product owners, but also consultants share the same information about the expectation. So here I precise that we will measure RAM data. We will monitor PDP segment because we are only optimizing the hero image of PDP here. And we are going to monitor LCP percentiles, but also distributions. And we are going to exclude Firefox from the data because Firefox doesn't support fetch priority hints. And
Uh,
this way, we remove the noise of Firefox sessions in our RAM tool.
yeah, I think I like this description. Feels a lot more like, whoever picks up the story knows what job needs to be done, what he needs to do, and why they are doing it, and how to also measure if they did the right job. And yeah, with what they might know also, that it's not with the wrong data in the description, okay, it's not just looking at the lighthouse score, we're
Yeah.
also looking at the real user. So we measure this maybe. But do you think it makes sense to like add how long you want to measure this? Maybe like 2 weeks, check back after 3 weeks, for example.
Yeah. Um, Timing of impact validation is so important. As soon as possible is better.
Okay.
So of course, some teams will want to get 6 hour window validation. It could be interesting for big migrations, etc. You deploy, you go live this morning, and you want to watch for the first 6 hours. It's okay, but uh, what is the most important thing is to follow to monitor the trend and to have sufficient history of data to be able to conclude and say, okay, we are really improving web performance. I had one example of so fast validation, but it was wrong because the day when we deployed a website, uh, there has been an ad on the TV, right? And we received a huge amount of traffic. So we were comparing a huge amount of traffic against a small amount of traffic in the previous days. And this could mislead us because we moved from a small volume to a big volume of data. So we need to pay attention and wait some hours and some days to see how things are working.
Yeah. So
This
because
is yeah, go on.
because probably like with all the traffic, the time to first byte might be reduced because of the server traffic
Could be this. It could also be that we received a new audience that we never got
measured.
before, right?
Right.
And this is also this can occur when we internationalize the website, right? So when you open in a new market, you will see new patterns and new kind of RAM data coming from this new country, and you need some days to have sufficient history to be able to compare. That's yeah. I don't know if there are some questions.
We didn't get any questions for the audience, but I mean, so far I think we've had a number of people watching, but no questions. So I think
Okay.
for me it's been interesting. Do you have any other thing you want to add on the topic before we wrap up?
We can stay here for hours talking about web performance, Peter. But yeah, I would love to if there are some questions. But yeah, thanks again for having me. It was really interesting.
Yeah, let's see. I just posted if there's any question. Let's see if anyone has question.
Okay.
So, question: what is the purpose of the competitive bench? Can you see some general competitors there? I think
Uh,
it's related to the
yeah,
competitor screen you showed.
this screen. Yeah, the purpose of this is to say we as a company we have competitors, right, in the same industry, in the same field, and it's important to see where we are where we are and compare against the competitors. So it could be a way to motivate the teams to make better than competitors. It could be also a way to convince customers saying, okay, you can put not direct competitors, but you can put other websites built on the same technical stack. For example, Next.js. Let's take this as an example and say if other Next.js websites were able to pass Web Vitals, why not? Why not for us, right? So
Yeah.
this is a way also to educate teams and educate it could be customers and say here you are not faster than your competitors, so you can go and catch a competitive edge. you know um, you can try to improve on different aspects, not only web performance. It could be accessibility, SEO, conversion optimization, etc.
Yeah. But you have to enter the data, just to clarify, you have to enter the domain for your competitor. So
Sure.
Speetals also do that automatically. Maybe when they add AI to the scoop out what kind of business you do and find your competitors.
Yes, it could be interesting. The advantage of using cracks is you won't call your competitor to ask for an access for their tool,
Data.
right? So you have data for many websites. So this is I think it's one of the biggest advantages of using cracks. The problem is that when you use RAM, we can't just send the snippet to your competitor and ask for some data. So yeah, it could be interesting also to check the performance benchmarks on speetles.com. So you can see how your website or is doing against the competition.
Yeah, that's nice. I have one final question regarding all this, which is we've talked a lot about the site speed, the metrics monitoring, how to validate and measure your effort. And I think for a lot of people, it also comes down to, apart from the one aspect anyway, it's for the user experience because you care a lot about your users. But the other aspect I also see is also from the SEO perspective. How does all this core web vitals affect your SEO objective?
Some will dislike my answer because I I don't do and I don't like doing web performance just for one reason. And I'm also SEO consultant, and I could say in every single corner in the world that do web vitals optimization because Google will love your website and improve your ranking. It's a nonsense. Okay, web vitals and web performance is part of the ranking of many ranking factors for Google and SEO, and but it's not the most important one, right? And doing web performance for just one reason is a trap, because when you are going to pass the web vitals, you will forget about web performance, and then you will regress. Your website will regress, and you won't even know about it, right? So, what I said last week in Brighton SEO is that uh, some people do web performance for their users, others for SEO, others for conversion optimization, and others for accessibility, inclusiveness, or maybe cost reduction. And all these words have a direct impact on your business. So just do web performance for your business to be better, to have a good reputation, to improve your users' experience. At the end of the day, Google won't buy your products, users will. So let's concentrate and focus on web performance as a qualitative criteria and factor, and not just for SEO or just for accessibility. I like I don't remember who said it, but I love considering web performance as part of the feature. So you can have a shiny AI product. If it's not performant, the feature is not achieving its goal, right? So
Yeah,
web performance is also the feature.
I think I like this definition a lot because uh, it covers, it makes it really engaging why you should do it, not just for one reason. And when a lot of us discuss this topic, we usually focus on SEO or conversion. And I think how you classified it, it's nice. Maybe you can have a way of making it into like a hierarchy of needs, like this hierarchy of needs pyramid, and it might capture more attention and more visual. But yeah, thanks a lot, Ayman. It's been very engaging. I've learned a lot, and I hope also I think my audience, the audience, have learned a lot from it. You Speetals, it's your product. So if anyone has a question around Speetals or ROM, feel free to reach out to Ayman.
Yes.
His LinkedIn details, I think, is on the YouTube description. Otherwise, you can find him by his name on his LinkedIn or also speedhouse.com. Uh, Next week, we have another interesting episode with an interesting guest around site speed and SEO, but mostly site speed, but for non-technical users. So if you are also interested, stay tuned next week. And if you have much more interesting suggestion for what to listen, let me know. And yeah, that's it from me. Any last words, Ayman?
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone. And keep the web faster and take care, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.